Hi, welcome to News at 10 on Rajya Sabha television, bringing you the top developing news stories from India and around the globe. My name is Aishwarya Kapoor and these are the headlines. Big diplomatic win for India. Dalveer Bhandari re-elected to International Court of Justice after Britain pulls out candidate. First time ICJ without a British judge since inception. Last day of filing nomination for the first phase of Gujarat polls, BJP releases a third list. Congress revises names of 4 candidates in the first list. NCP to contest alone. Legislative, executive and judiciary must play their defined constitutional roles, says Vice President. Stresses need to address eroding trust and confidence of people in the institutions. 9 years after it was removed from the list, US President declares that North Korea a state sponsor of terrorism. Move allows the Trump administration to impose additional sanctions on Pyongyang. And Asta Bahawa enters the quarterfinals at the Women's Youth World Boxing Championships. PV Sindhu to lead India's challenge at a Hong Kong Super Series Badminton. The biggest story at the top of this hour, India's big diplomatic victory. India's Dalveer Bhandari has been re-elected to the International Court of Justice after Britain pulled out its candidate. Now, Christopher Greenwood withdrew after a stalemate in the hard-fought race. A candidate needs to get a majority in both the General Assembly and the Security Council to win the seat. In the 11 rounds of voting, Bhandari got nearly 2/3 of the votes in the General Assembly. But in Security Council, he got only 5 votes as against 9 for his opponent Greenwood, resulting in a stalemate. However, Britain pulled out on Monday, saying that it was wrong to continue to take up the valuable time of the Security Council and the UN General Assembly with further rounds of elections. Now, after the withdrawal, with the Bhandari being the only candidate left in the race, the General Assembly and Security Council still went through the motions of voting to complete the formalities. Now, this will be the first time since the ICJ was established in 1945 that there will be no British judge.
The jurist, Mr. Ronnie Abraham, Mr. Dalveer Bhandari, Mr. Antonio Augusto Gansado Trindade, Mr. Nawaf Salam, and Mr. Abdul Qawi Ahmed Yusuf has been elected to the International Court of Justice for a term of office of 9 years.
After the win, President Ram Nath Kovind congratulated Mr. Dalveer Bhandari in a tweet message. He termed it a diplomatic milestone. And after the win, India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Syed Akbaruddin, also tweeted a vote that brings a cheer to a billion. India's nominee judge Bhandari re-elected to ICJ. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj also tweeted following India's victory at the ICJ. All right, let's get a perspective on this. Mr. Syed Akbaruddin, India's permanent representative in the United Nations, is joining us from New York. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning, and congratulations on Mr. Dalveer Bhandari's re-election. Indeed, a big diplomatic win for India, but also driving home the point that the candidate who enjoys the overwhelming support of the General Assembly can be the only legitimate candidate to go through.
Well, first of all, thank you, Aishwarya, for giving me this opportunity to interact with you and through you to your viewers. It is certainly for me an honor and a privilege to be part of such a major diplomatic effort that was launched by us to ensure victory for Judge Dalveer Bhandari. It was an effort led by our political leadership with their guidance. It was an effort in which the entire diplomatic establishment of the Indian Foreign Service was involved, not only in Delhi or we the foot soldiers in New York, but also in global capitals all across the world. What you saw today was a reflection of the natural weight of India being translated into global recognition at the UN.
Right. And sir, Mr. Dalveer Bhandari's re-election also means that now at the ICJ, a permanent member goes unrepresented and 4 Asian countries will be represented on the ICJ bench instead of the usual 3.
This was not an election about a region. This was not an election about a person. It was an election about a choice of 2 values. One, which stood for inclusivism, transparency and democracy.
Yes.
And another, where the effort was to argue about outdated privileges, small group identities, and harp on a non-democratic means of trying to resolve a election where there was only one clear, undisputed leader in terms of garnering support at the ballots. And as should be the normal way of life in the 21st century, the person or the thinking where we wanted democracy to prevail finally prevailed.
And also, Mr. Akbaruddin, how much does this victory really strengthen India's position at the ICJ in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case?
I'm afraid I'm not privy to those matters, so I can't answer those questions.
All right.
Because I don't think there is any judges are independent in their view there. So I don't think you should link that with any case that we may have at the ICJ or not. This election is not about that a individual or an individual case. It is about India's natural weight being reflected in international bodies.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning on Rajya Sabha television. Thank you so much for all those details there. So, big diplomatic win for India at the International Court of Justice there. And let's move on in the bulletin. News from Gujarat Assembly elections. Well, today is the last day of nominations for the first phase of Gujarat Assembly polls, and so far 377 candidates from various parties have filed their nominations for election to 89 seats slated for 9th of December election. The nominations for the second phase began on Monday and can be filed till the 27th of November. The polling for the two-phase election for the 182 seats will be held on 9th of December and 14th of December. The counting of votes will take place on 18th of December. And earlier, the BJP released its third list of 28 candidates for elections to the 182-member Gujarat Assembly on Monday. And the names included in the list are former state BJP President R.C. Faldu, who will contest from Jamnagar South seat. Former State Minister Saurabh Patel will contest from Botad, while Raman Bhai Vora was given a ticket from the Sada. Now, the names of the candidates were finalized by the BJP Central Election Committee. Earlier, the party had released a list of 106 candidates. So far, the BJP has finalized the names of 434 candidates. And the Congress party released its second list of 9 candidates for the Gujarat Assembly polls on Monday. Now, the party has replaced 4 candidates on the list announced on Sunday with 4 new nominees. Congress on Sunday had released its first list of 77 candidates for the first phase of the polls. And with just a day left to file nominations for the first phase of the Gujarat Assembly elections, the Sharad Pawar-led Nationalist Congress Party, or the NCP, has decided to contest on its own. Senior NCP leader Praful Patel announced the decision after alliance discussions with the Congress Party failed. The NCP was reportedly upset after the Congress announced a candidate from Kutiana constituency in Porbandar. Now, the announcement on a seat that is currently held by the NCP indicated that the Congress was not interested in an alliance with it. The NCP has 2 MLAs in the 182-seat Gujarat Assembly at present. In 2012, it had contested 7 seats in an arrangement with the Congress party. Meanwhile, the Aam Aadmi Party released its third list of 13 candidates for the Gujarat elections on Monday. AAP, which is contesting elections independently in the state, has now fielded a total of 33 candidates so far. As per the list of candidates, come from varied backgrounds, including farmer leaders, sarpanch, retired flight attendants, teacher, RTI activists, social activists and traders. On to some other news now. There is a war of words going on between the Congress party and the centre over the winter session of Parliament. Now, addressing the Congress Working Committee meeting, party President Sonia Gandhi criticised the centre on the winter session. She alleged that the government had sabotaged the session on flimsy grounds. Sonia Gandhi further said that the government implemented an ill-prepared GST and burdened the public by announcing demonetisation. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley responded to the charge, stating that it is not the first time that a parliament session was rescheduled to ensure that it did not overlap with the elections. He said that the Congress itself had done so in the past.
गुजरात के चुनाव के मद्देनजर प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी इन सवालों का जवाब नहीं देना चाहते, इसीलिए वो संसद के शीतकाल सत्र को बुलाने से बच रहे हैं। परंतु कांग्रेस पार्टी जनता की अदालत के माध्यम से ये सवाल पूछती रहेगी, ये कांग्रेस अध्यक्षा ने कहा।
ये एक परंपरा रही है और कई बार हुआ है कि जब चुनाव चल रहे होते हैं तो संसद का सेशन रीशेड्यूल होता है। इसने स्वयं कई बार सेशंस रीशेड्यूल किए, उसका समय इस प्रकार से दोबारा तय किया जाता है कि चुनाव के कैंपेन के साथ वो ओवरलैप ना करें। 2011 में उन्होंने किया, पहले भी करते रहे और इसलिए संसद का सत्र निश्चित रूप से होगा, हर विषय पे होगा और कांग्रेस को पूरे रूप से एक्सपोज किया जाएगा।
On to some other news now. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has said that whether it is a parliamentarian or a judge, the attempt must be to do the best to meet the expectations of the people. He said this while addressing a gathering of judges and lawyers of the Hyderabad High Court on Monday. The Vice President added that just as there should be discussions instead of arguments in Parliament, there should not be delays in giving out judgments. The Vice President also emphasized that all institutions have defined roles and that executive, legislature and judiciary must not encroach each other's space. He also pointed out that a trust in the judiciary, executive and legislature is eroding and it needs to be addressed. Bar associations of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana jointly organized this event.
We all, as people in the legislature, people in executive and people in judiciary, we must all adhere to the defined roles that are given to us by the Constitution and see to it that those values are respected and those laws, nobody should trespass to others' domain. That has been the wish of the founding fathers of the Constitution.
And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu also on Monday released a book, Modati Patham, in Hyderabad, underscoring the importance of the role of a teacher in a student's life. The Vice President said that internet can be a source of information, but it can never take the place of a teacher. The book is written by well-known mathematician and senior former professor of Hyderabad University, Dr. Chuka Ramaya.
Manandaro, we are all wise men, so we try to learn from others' experience. So teachers, they should all learn from the experience of Ramaya garu. ఈ రామయ్య గారి యొక్క మొదటి పాఠాన్ని ప్రతి ఒక్కరు అధ్యయనం చేయాలా. ఆ పనిని సులభతరం చేస్తూ శ్రీహరి గారు విద్యామంత్రి, నేను మా ఉపాధ్యాయులందరికీ ఒక పుస్తకాన్ని చేరేట్టుగా చేస్తానని చెప్పి అన్నాడు. దాంతోపాటు వాళ్ళందరినీ చదివేట్టుగా కూడా ప్రోత్సహించాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. చదివిన వాళ్ళు విద్యార్థులకు వాటిని తెలియజెప్పాల్సిన అవసరం ఎంతో ఉంది.
And in News at 10, we'll take a very short break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
The story we thought we knew. the story of magnificence, the story of bloody battles, of those who ruled and those who left their footprints. The story charting the course of our past. Talking history on Rajya Sabha TV.
Thanks for staying with us. News from Uttar Pradesh, where the Shia Central Waqf Board has made a proposal for the settlement of the Ayodhya dispute. In a proposal submitted to the Supreme Court, the UP Shia Central Waqf Board has suggested that a Ram temple be constructed at the site in Ayodhya and a mosque can be raised in Lucknow. The board also told the top court that a peaceful settlement between the parties was in national interest and would bring about harmony. The proposal, however, has been rejected by the All India Muslim Personal Law Board. The apex court would commence the final hearing of the long-standing matter from 5th of December.
गवर्नमेंट भी चाहती है कि फसाद अगर आपसी सहमति से खत्म हो जाए, मंदिर निर्माण हो जाए। शिया वक्फ बोर्ड का जो स्टैंड है वो हिंदुस्तान के मफाद में है।
एक ऐसे मामले की जिसमें कई कम्युनिटीज़ के बीच में डिस्प्यूट्स हैं, वो मीडिएशन से बेटर और कोई तरीका नहीं है। नहीं होता तो कोर्ट तो अल्टीमेटली मैटर को 5 तारीख को सुन ही रही है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच में, लेकिन आज के लिए ये भी एप्लीकेशन जो है कोर्ट ने उसको 5 तारीख के लिए साथ में लगा दिया है मेन मैटर कि उसको उसी दिन कंसिडर करेंगे।
More news from the top court and the Supreme Court has directed states to issue directions to make school children aware of the dangers of virtual dare games like Blue Whale Challenge. The court said this while disposing of a PIL seeking to frame guidelines to regulate online digital games. The court said that the children must be aware of the beauty of life. The apex court directed the HRD ministry to issue a circular to make school-going children aware of the perils of such dangerous games. The guidelines require schools to promote a safe and secure educational environment for effective teaching and learning and discouraging students from actions detrimental to themselves, their peers and the value system. They also advised the school authorities take steps to preempt any inappropriate or illegal activity through IT-enabled devices in schools. On to some other news now. Sagar Kavach, a 3-day-long coastal security exercise, will be conducted for Kerala and Lakshadweep Islands from today. Now, the exercise is a half-yearly event to assess coastal security mechanism and validate standard operating procedures or SOPs. The exercise will be conducted and coordinated by the Indian Coast Guard with active participation from the Navy, Coastal Police, Police Special Branch, the Intelligence Bureau, Customs, Department of Ports, Department of Fisheries, Director General of Lighthouses and Lightships and Fishing Community. The exercise would include mock drills of terrorist infiltration and its prevention to assess the preparedness of the participating organization in the event of a terror attack. Let's get you some weather updates now. And cold wave conditions have further intensified in the states of Jammu and Kashmir as well as in Himachal Pradesh. In Jammu and Kashmir, the historic Mughal Road in Shopian district, which is connecting Jammu region through Rajouri, remains shut for the 5th consecutive day. The temperature in Leh was recorded at -6.7 degrees Celsius. The traffic on the 300-kilometer-long Srinagar-Jammu National Highway linking Kashmir with the rest of the country is plying normal. The Met Department has forecast a dry weather for the next 24 hours in Ladakh and Kashmir region. And in Himachal Pradesh, the minimum temperature further dropped by a few notches at many places. This comes after overnight rain and snow in tribal Lahaul, Spiti and Kinnaur districts. The famous tourist resort of Manali recorded -0.6 degrees Celsius. The Met Department has forecast a dry weather in the state for the next 5 days up to 26th of November. News from Goa now, and the 48th International Film Festival of India is underway in Goa. The film festival was inaugurated by Bollywood actor Shah Rukh Khan at a glittering ceremony at the Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Indoor Stadium in Panaji. Now, Information and Broadcasting Minister Smriti Irani and Gujarat Minister Manohar Parrikar also attended the function. The 9-day extravaganza will see around 200 films from over 80 countries being screened. Among them are over 38 Oscar-nominated films. The opening film this year was Beyond the Clouds by Iranian filmmaker Majid Majidi, and Canada is the focus country. 7 award-winning films from BRICS nations will also be screened. In the Indian Panorama section of the festival, Vinod Kapri's Hindi film Pihu will open the feature film category section. 26 feature films and 16 non-feature films will be screened in the Indian Panorama section.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Government of India, let me all welcome you to the 48th International Film Festival of India.
Let's move on in the bulletin now. Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghes will begin a 4-day India visit from today. During his visit aimed at boosting bilateral ties, the visiting Prime Minister will hold a wide-ranging talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday. The fishermen issue is also likely to figure during the talks. The leaders are also expected to deliberate on issues relating to maritime security amid efforts by China to strengthen its naval presence around the waters of the island nation. The Sri Lankan Prime Minister's first destination will be Bengaluru, and he will arrive in the national capital on Wednesday. He will be participating in the 5th Global Conference on Cyberspace here. He will also call on President Ramnath Kovind. Our top international focus now. The United States has redesignated North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism 9 years after it was removed from the list. The decision, which would impose further sanctions on North Korea, was announced by Donald Trump in a cabinet meeting. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said that the move will help dissuade third parties from supporting Pyongyang. North Korea, remember, was removed from the list of states sponsor of terrorism under the George W. Bush administration.
It is very symbolic on the one hand because it just points out again what a rogue regime this is and how brutal this regime is and how little they care for the value of human life. So I think if in that in of itself, I think makes a strong statement of just the nature of this regime. And as I've said, the practical effects may be limited, but hopefully we're closing off a few loopholes with this.
And now an update on the political crisis in Zimbabwe, and the ruling ZANU-PF party is set to begin impeachment proceedings against President Robert Mugabe. The motion is due to be presented to Parliament today with votes in both the National Assembly and the Senate. Both the chambers must then appoint a joint committee to investigate removing the president. If the committee recommends impeachment, the president can then be removed if both the houses back it with 2/3 majorities. The developments come after a deadline set by ZANU-PF for Mugabe's resignation passed on Monday. The charges against Mugabe include allowing his wife to usurp constitutional power. Meanwhile, military leaders say that they have planned a roadmap for Mugabe's future and that the ousted former Vice President Emerson Mnangagwa would return to the country soon. Mnangagwa has been out of the country since Mugabe ousted him earlier this month. His ouster triggered a political crisis amid repeated calls for Mugabe to step down.
Comrade Raji Mugabe has been formally notified of the decisions this morning. As for that, the party has instructed the Chief Whip to proceed with impeachment processes against Comrade Raji Mugabe, as it has not received the anticipated confirmation of his resignation from the Speaker of Parliament.
The Zimbabwe Defense and Security Services are encouraged by new developments which include contact between the President and the former Vice President, Comrade Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, who is expected in the country shortly. Thereafter, the nation will be advised on the outcome of talks between the two. In the meantime, His Excellency and Commander-in-Chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, Comrade R.G. Mugabe, has started processes towards a definitive solution and roadmap for the country.
On to some sports news now, and the first cricket test match between India and Sri Lanka ended in a draw at Kolkata's Eden Gardens. Chasing a victory target of 231 runs, the visitors were reduced to 75 for 7. Batting in the second innings on Monday, India declared at 352 for 8. Skipper Virat Kohli top scored with 104 not out, while Shikhar Dhawan scored 94 and KL Rahul scored 79 runs. In reply, Sri Lanka lost quick wickets, with the top scorer Niroshan Dickwella managing to score just 27 runs and Dinesh Chandimal scored 20. Meanwhile, the BCCI has announced the India's test squad for the second test match as well. Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Shikhar Dhawan have been released from the test team due to personal reasons. The second test match will be played from 24th of November.
By stealth.
2 series back-to-back against India is going to be the making of the Sri Lankan team in the future, because when you play against quality teams under pressure, you become better. So, yeah, it's a concern, but I'm more excited about how we fought and how we came out of it at the other end.
Make a game out of this, like I said, so that was the plan. But yeah, unfortunately, we lost 3 wickets early in one spell of Luckmal, so we had to play a little bit extra. We had to play a little longer. But yeah, again, Virat played a fabulous knock. That was what was expected out of one batsman today, and he delivered. But yeah, again, 5 or 6 overs would have been our way.
News from the boxing ring, and ace Indian boxer Asta Pahwa has entered the quarter-final of the ongoing AIBA Women's Youth World Boxing Championships in Guwahati. Asta beat her Bulgarian opponent Melis N. Yunozova in the 69-kilogram category. She will now face Cancer Oltu of Turkey on Wednesday. In another match, Indian boxer Shashi Chopra advanced to the pre-quarter-finals. Shashi beat her Uzbekistan opponent Rakhmatova Durdunakhton in the 57-kilogram category. Chopra will now face Chinese Taipei's Lin Li Wengyi. Nearly 200 players from over 30 nations are taking part in the event. From the world of badminton now, an Olympic silver medalist PV Sindhu will lead India's challenge at the Hong Kong Super Series starting at Kowloon City in Hong Kong from today. Sindhu had suffered a loss against China's Gao Fangxi in the China Open Super Series premiere last week. Among other Indians, national champions Saina Nehwal and HS Pranoy are also in the tournament. World number 10 Pranoy will face Hong Kong's Hu Hun in the opening round, while world number 11 Saina Nehwal will face Denmark's Mette Poulsen in the women's singles category. That's all in this edition of news. Thanks so much for watching.